The presentation is Dr. BENYUSZ Márta. She is working in the Institute of Ferenc Mádl Institute for Comparative Law, and she will speak about the children's rights, protection, promotion, and participation. Please, Dr. BENYUSZ Márta.
Thank you very much, Professor Vékás, professors, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude to speak about a topic that is, in my view, not only quite important, but is very close to my heart. The title of this conference is the Local and National Characteristics of Family Protection. So at first, children's rights, protection, promotion, participation might seem a bit distant, especially if we look at the subtitle. It is the role of non-governmental organizations. Obviously, the child should not and cannot be separated from the notion of family. And at the same time, the family sometimes needs support to deeper understand the nature and the importance of children's rights, which can only contribute to a safer and stronger and thus more protected family environment. Within the Ferenc Mádl Institute for Comparative Law, we conducted a research which has shown a quite interesting pattern regarding the presence of civil society in Central Europe. The presence of non-governmental organizations can be characterized quite unsatisfactory in terms of not only their number, but also sometimes the diversity of their approach. As a consequence of these, for example, church institutions struggle to find appropriate professional help with regard to children's rights, and it may cause that they rather distance themselves from issues related to children's rights. Of course, it does not mean that there are no initiatives at all, even from the side of church professionals. However, there is a vacuum which must be filled in order that the enforcement and the visibility of children's rights could be improved. So the focus of my presentation is to highlight the role of civil society in supporting the protection of children's rights, raising the awareness on the importance of participation of children in all decisions affecting their lives, and giving a platform and showing best practices, how the effective participation may be realized, as well as their role in promoting children's rights. In the first part of my presentation, I will be speaking about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child a bit in general. I know we all know it, but I think it's important in order to talk about this topic. Then put an emphasis on its provisions that stipulates the importance of loving, safe family environment and highlights the responsibility of parents while raising children. In the second part of my presentation, I will be speaking about the role of civil society regarding the UNCRC, in particular their role in adopting the treaty, drafting the treaty, in the ratification process, as well as in the implementation, which 32 years after the adoption still has to be pushed forward. I will highlight the involvement of civil society in the region on the basis of the concluding observation of the UN Committee on the Rights of the Child, and try to give some reasons on why it would be so important to create more of these organizations to connect and make their activity more visible and approachable to everyone. The UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is the most widely adopted human rights instrument ratified by all countries in the world except for the United States. Also, the Vatican is a state party that not only undersigned the convention, but also took an enormous part in the negotiating process. This wide and undisputed acceptance of this international law document shows very well that the protection and recognition of children's rights is a worldwide common value that we all share. The UNCRC moved children from the status of an object to a person, and went beyond the child survival, child caring model to a child rights-based model, which challenges the structural relationship of inequality and oppression between adults and children in the family, schools, institutions, and communities. The text of the UNCRC very well recognizes the importance and significant influence that family environment has on child's life. In its preamble, the UNCRC provides that the states to the convention are convinced that the family as the fundamental group of society and the natural environment for the growth and well-being of all its members, and particularly children, should be afforded the necessary protection and assistance so that it can fully assume its responsibilities within the community, as well as the state parties are recognizing that the child, for the full and harmonious development of his or her personality, should grow up in a family environment in an atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding. The family should protect the child from all forms of violence, and state parties shall respect the responsibilities, rights, and duties of parents, or, where applicable, the members of the extended family or community as provided for by local custom, legal guardians, or other persons legally responsible for the child to provide. In a manner consistent with evolving capacities of the child, appropriate direction and guidance in the exercise by the child of the rights recognized in the Convention. So obviously there is the right, every child's right to a family and family reunification and other articles of the UNCRC, which I will not go into details. I just want to highlight Article 3 of the UNCRC as the umbrella principle of the Convention, which says that in all actions concerning children, whether undertaken by private, public or social welfare institutions, courts of law, administrative authorities or legislative bodies, the best interest of the child shall be a primary consideration. It is the key term of the Convention and the complex term to be determined on a case-by-case basis. Therefore, it is flexible and adaptable. There is no time and no need to go into the details as regards the best interest of the child principle. The reason I mention it here is to underline its importance and its guiding nature, even for non-governmental organizations, that I will be talking about in a minute. So the primary duty bearers of the rights listed in the Convention are the states. But as raising of a child is primarily the responsibility of parents, it makes them duty bearers as well, as duty bearers are the members of civil society and everyone who connects with a child. The rights may be grouped in three categories. The ones are the rights that may be placed under protection, the rights that fall under caregiving, and the rights under participation. Also, the activities pursued in order to implement these rights are protection from all forms of violence, promotion, so raising awareness and make it really effectively, and ensure participation of all children and involve them. In other words, the duty bearers, so also civil society, are to protect and promote and ensure participation. Of course, at this point, it may seem as generalizing and schematizing, but these three elements are indeed serving as the backbone for child rights activity. Protection and participation does not exist separately, as children and young people's participation is necessary for effecting and respectful protection as required by the UNCRC. While we all feel the limits of legal provisions, and it is the case especially when it comes to children's rights, the civil society, if it's diverse and active enough and representing all fragments of society, has the potential to fill in the gaps and challenge these limits. Let's see closer the role of civil society and the possible role in the implementation of UNCRC. As to the children's rights or to the Convention, the NGO's role may be characterized in three aspects. Firstly, there is their support in the drafting process. Obviously, it's a closed process, but it has ongoing effects until today. Their support in ratification and their concrete presence in the articles of the CRC and the role in the implementation. So non-governmental organizations played stronger role in drafting the CRC than they had in any previous drafting process. The proposal of the treaty was submitted in 1978, and the support by civil society was immediate. By 1983-84, an NGO ad hoc group was set up, which brought together human rights and child-focused organization. As a result of the NGO participation, the CRC today reflects more negotiated, consensual understanding and than otherwise have been the case. States were eager to ratify the treaty, and also they had the support of the NGOs. Where state hesitated, the NGOs pushed the ratification. Today, there is only one state, as I mentioned, that hasn't ratified the treaty. It's the United States of America, where there is an NGO group or a campaign that is constantly ongoing to push ratification. The CRC is UNCRC is the first international treaty to include civil society in its legal provisions. It is Article 45 of the treaty, which addresses civil society as a partner in implementation, except for Article 45 in its general comments number 5 on the general measures for implementation. The Committee on the Rights of the Child says that the state needs to work closely with non-governmental organizations in the widest sense while respecting their autonomy. These include, for example, human rights NGOs, child and youth-led organizations and youth groups, parent and family groups, faith groups, academic institutions, and professional associations. NGO played a crucial part in the drafting of the convention, and their involvement in the implementation would be vital. The Committee on the Convention on the Rights of the Child has also issued in 1996 and in 2005 guidelines for implementation that include 8 general measures that state parties are required to report on. These measures also include involvement of civil society organizations in the implementation. So if we look at the palette of non-governmental organizations that are engaged in the matters concerning children's rights, generally there are 2 types of these organizations. There is a broad category of NGO activity. These are community-based organizations, state, regional, national organizations that address specific problems, like, for instance, abuse or education. And there is a narrow category of NGOs which directly participate and engage in the formal monitoring process of the CRC implementation and submit so-called alternative reports to the Committee on the Rights of the Child. Both activities are very important. However, regarding the concrete implementation, the latter shall be highlighted as in order to obtain an accurate picture of the situation of children. The committee does not really solely rely on the state parties' report, but also takes into consideration the alternative reports. Without necessarily claiming really completeness, at the next slide, we see child rights organizations that operate regionally or worldwide and are involved also in cross-border activity. So I will just say a few words about, just cherry pick 2 of them. Eurochild, it was established in 2004 by a group of organizations formerly working together in the European branch of International Forum for Child Welfare. Eurochild works closely with the European Union and took a great part in drafting the EU strategy on the rights of the child. The Children is a non-governmental organization there in 120 countries. Among many their activities, it publishes regular reports on various issues regarding children's rights. UNICEF, we all know UNICEF. World Vision is a Christian organization focused on improving the lives of children and the communities they live in. Expat is an organization focusing exclusively on ending sexual exploitation. CRIN is a think tank focusing on children's rights through research, network, and advocacy. Yeah, we see that, of course, there's Eurochild, which is a regional for Europe, but all of them rather work worldwide. And according to my knowledge, so with my colleagues, we couldn't really identify regional cooperation for Central Europe as regards to children's rights. This is underlined if we look at the concluding observations of the Committee on the Rights of the Child. These are when the concluding observations were published, that we see insufficient civil society involvement, especially national, regional level, and it does not only imply to their number, as I said in the beginning, but also their diversity. And in Hungary, for instance, there is only one organization on a national level that takes care for horizontal representation of children's rights. And we can say that, sure, they do not cover all the work that needs to be done. Generally, these countries have maximum one alternative report submitted to the Commission on the Rights of the Child, which reports are usually coordinated by the UNICEF or a so-called Children's Rights Coalition. For sure, this is the situation in Hungary and Poland. It might bring up the question on whether there is a need of having other perspective or deepen some other issues. I am also fortunate enough to be involved in child protection project led by religious orders in Hungary. And I have participated in a conference in Warsaw on safeguarding minors in the church, where it was obvious that more professional help and deeper explanation of children's rights would be very much appreciated. The lack of involvement and proper representation is also very well visible if we look at the EU strategy on the rights of the child, which was adopted by a very wide participation of NGOs and also children. However, if we go into details and we check whether there were any real involvement from Central European countries, well, we see some deficits. So the Commission invited 5 organizations to help to enhance the child participation. And these organizations really did a good job because they involved a big number of children that answered the questionnaire on EU strategy on the rights of the child. However, if we look at the NGO participation, you see there the numbers. So just to see, firstly, the public consultation, it was 494 responses that came back. 140 came from NGOs. Some data says it was 138, but I think at this point this doesn't really matter if it's 140 and 138. So, and only Poland, from Central European countries, it is from only Poland that is measurable with 9%. This obviously could be the result of a big number of population. But I'm sure that there is no direct link if we consider the fact that Belgium is the most active with its 20%. And also if we look at the concrete opinions, because it is the public consultation part, but there was an opportunity to give professional opinions. I found only one contribution from Poland and one contribution from Slovenia. Many contributions from Belgium, many contributions from Germany, but actually from Central European NGOs, not really. And it is a very important document as it is a strategy until 2024. What are my conclusions? Firstly, there is this golden statement that comes always with the UNCRC, but I think it cannot be repeated enough, that more needs to be done for proper implementation and to make children's rights visible and make understandable to everyone. The diversification of civil society and their active involvement in cross-border activity in Central Europe, it could only be a benefit and raising awareness. It is important to also involve in the process the children and the families, maximize the potential of expertise, and there is still room for research. Thank you very much.